Good morning. We're going to run through a few winter tips on zig fishing today. We're at a fairly small Cambridgeshire water. Interestingly, it goes down to 30 feet, which for a zigging purpose makes life a little difficult. So I'm going to run through a couple of the ideas that I've come up with to deal with, one, a 30 foot deep water, and two, trying to find the fish at whatever depth they are. We're in the middle of January now. 30 foot deep, basically, hole of water. We're going to try and find what depth the actual fish are sitting at and what depth they'll actually be prepared to feed at. So, the first tip for winter zig fishing, in my book, is use an adjustable zig. The reason being, in the winter, your zig fishing isn't just going to be 2 to 3 foot below the surface, because the fish will try and find the thermal layer in the middle depths of the water column, because that's the steadiest temperature and quite often the actual warmest section of the water. So the first thing we're going to have to try and do is find the depth, which when you're standard zig fishing, tying hook links direct to leads and lead clips, is a long process. Each time you're changing your depth, you're having to retie a complete rig, basically. So, for my zigging in the winter, I use an adjustable zig. Now, these are a very straightforward setup. You want a running lead on your main line, something pretty buoyant. In this case, it's an old pike bung, a stiff link section of about 6 inches, where the actual material is pretty stiff, and that basically gives you a boom to hold your hook link away from your main line. And from the end of your stiff boom, we have a micro swivel and the hook link tied onto that. Now, I've tied on about a 5 foot hook link, basically because I don't want that sitting close to the actual hook bait. It's visible, it's white. I don't want the fish spooking off it. So I've given myself about a 5 foot hook link, so that's well out of the way of the feeding fish. I've used a much finer line and a clear line for the actual zig hook link. Now, that's quite important in winter. One of the main reasons being, the colder the water is, the less particle in the water, the much clearer water. So basically, the colder the water gets, the clearer the water you're fishing in. So in winter, rather than using a slightly tinted line, which I tend to in summer and spring and autumn, I use a clear line. And this Shimano Silk Shock is a very fine diameter, which is superb for a high breaking strain, and it's a crystal clear mono, so it's less likely to spook the fish. From that, I then use the Ace Zig hooks. Now, there are a lot of hooks out there that you can use as zig hooks, but the main advantage of these beauties is they've got an exceedingly long straight point. Okay, the advantage of that is, if you can imagine, a fish is actually a lot of the time purely lipping this to find out what it is. And with a long straight point, any lipping is likely to prick the fish. And these hooks have such a long, fine point, as soon as they're pricked, that's it. It's game over. So, we've got an ultra fine clear hook link. We've got nice, small, very sharp zig hooks. And on this occasion, I'm going to have a play with a new bait that Dynamite are launching. It's called the Black Buzzer. Now it's a slightly meaty-ish sort of flavour. But the beauty is these things come in 10mm circular as well as dumbbell, as you can see. Nice food bait, hook baits for winter, plus an enhancer, so you can actually make the hook bait a lot stronger smelling. So, those are a few of the basic tips. The other tip I would give for winter zig fishing, if you've seen me zigging in the past, you'll know I generally use foam. In winter, I think a food bait is probably going to be a better option. The fish are likely to be hungry. They're not likely to be happy to drop through the colder layers of water and feed on the bottom. So a nice, unobtrusive little mouthful of food is more likely to get you the bite, I think. So that's the rig. Now, when fishing a zig, an adjustable zig, there's a couple of very important things to bear in mind. They are a bit of a bugger for tangling. So, when you're setting up, try and set up with the wind side onto you. Because when you cast, that side on wind will help keep your main line and your hook link separated. Okay? Secondly, any sort of zig fishing, when you cast out, you have to stop the whole rig before it hits the water. You feather it down, and that then lays all the rig out in a nice straight line, no tangles. And last but not least, use baits you're confident in. As I say, sticking a nice little morsel like that out is much more likely to get you a bite than, say, sticking out a 15mm bright bait that the fish are likely to spook off. So I tend to go for something, one that's an unusual shape and colour, and two, something that's not going to spook them too much. So here's a lively one, a very welcome 20-pound 12 winter fish caught on an adjustable zig with the new Dynamite bait Black Buzzer dumbbells. 20-pound 12, a very welcome winter fish. Let's put her straight back. Didn't it?